Hello, everybody, and welcome to this fourth edition of the Lean Stream. This is the Lean Company's look into the latest trends in marketing, advertising, innovation, technology, and sustainability. In this session, we plan to follow up on our last webinar, which serves as an introduction to the Metaverse and the opportunities at play there. This time, we have a new lineup of speakers with the intent to guide you, brands, agencies, corporates, banks, telcos, e-commerce platforms, or really any business at all, on how you can enter the metaverse and connect with your customers there. Of course, it's such a new concept, although some of our speakers would say that it's been around for decades, that there are loads of options, some good, some bad, and some, well, downright ugly. Today, you'll hear from Meltwater, a social listening platform that can tell us a bit about what consumers are talking about right now. Hotplay, a game studio and in-game advertising platform. Unity Technologies, who create VR and AR simulations and provide the technology that goes into making video games. And of course, last but not least, we'll hear from Meta, whose recent rebrand has helped catapult the metaverse into the consciousness of consumers everywhere, and whose dominance of the digital advertising space leads many to believe that they can do the same and dominate this new arena. I'm looking forward to finding out. Remember, if you'd like to ask a question of any of our speakers today, you can do so by hitting the little Q&A button in your Zoom screen. We will answer any good questions as we go along or at the end. Okay, but before we get really into the nitty-gritty, let's start with a quick poll for everyone to see if you're paying attention. So please do use the voting function, and here is the poll. The question for the poll is, have you or your company already made plans to do business in the metaverse? Well, it looks like the votes are in, and in fact, it's quite evenly spread. There are quite a few of you who have actually begun that process of doing business in the metaverse. So that's really impressive. I'm actually quite surprised with that. So 29% of people said that your company has already started this process. That's pretty interesting. So look, you can see our speakers here. We've got Mimra, Pimsai, and Adrian. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. Before we get started, why don't each of you give yourself a very quick introduction? Why don't we start with Mimra?
Hi, everyone. Very nice meeting you. I'm from Meltwater, and I help Meltwater with its global accounts. Meltwater, as a company, we do social listening, and very excited to be part of this conversation.
Cool, brilliant. All right, how about you, Pimsai? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Pimsai. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Hotplay. So at Hotplay, we're doing in-game advertising platform. And we also have our in-house studio to develop games for brand and retailer to engage with their consumer.
Brilliant. And last but not least, Adrian, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Adrian. So I've been at Meta for the past 8 years, focused on growing gaming partnerships on the advertising side of the business, both across APAC and in EMEA before. So I'm delighted to be here with you today to give you a glimpse of Meta's vision for the metaverse and also how you can build for it today.
Fabulous, brilliant. Thanks very much. All right, guys, so let's start off with a good one. I'm going to give you a minute each and I'm going to time you. I want you each to explain what your understanding of the metaverse is. So let's do it in the same order. Mimra, what you've got a minute. Let's go. Let's hear what is the metaverse to you?
I think for me, it's the most simplest definition, which is moving into an augmented reality world, being able to experience the world both from a digital sense as well as to some extent having a physical response to it. I think it's a space which is I think when I was growing up playing like video games and so forth, that's still the virtual world I'm most commonly familiar with. So that's, I think, what I mostly associate with Metaverse. But one of the things that I think that's very, very exciting is when you think about Metaverse, you also think about sometimes when you're traveling, you want to look at Google Maps, live view, and so forth. And that actually feels like you are in the Metaverse when you're especially traveling, you are in a country where you don't know where you're going. Using those kind of elements help you get more comfortable with the Metaverse. So that's my world of Metaverse.
Okay, cool. I think we're going to get onto video games later. We've actually got Adrian and Pimsai, both video game specialists. So we'll hear about that later. Pimsai, tell us by the way, that was very good timing, Nimra. So Pimsai, tell us in a minute your understanding of what is the metaverse.
Okay. For me, metaverse include any digital experience on the internet that is interactive, immersive, and three-dimensional and virtual. So metaverse offer us, I think, a new framework for interaction and co-experience in any way that we already experience today, like roadmap that Mimra mentioned, or I think it's an opportunity that beyond, that allow us to play, work, learn, earn, connect, and shop in a different experience, right? So I think, metaverse open up a multitude of a new dimension for us as a consumer and for business to create value. And I think we already experienced some element of the metaverse concept today, like in a massive online social game, like Fortnite, or user-created virtual world like Minecraft or Roblox, right? Or even in our daily routine, like what we're doing now, video conferencing. This is disrupted how we do things, and it's going to be more new things coming up. Yeah.
Oops. Okay, good. That was a tiny bit over a minute, but that's very broad. How we live, learn, and earn. Okay, cool. All right, Adrian, tell us what's your understanding of the metaverse from Meta?
Yeah, so for Meta, it's really not about replacing, in-person experiences, but really about making what we do online better and more meaningful. And we're seeing actually the natural evolution of the current platforms as a natural evolution of the current platforms that we use today to just enhance, social experiences. So just to give you an example, business meetings. So like probably most of you, I haven't been in a conference room for 2 years now. And I've been actually very impressed by Horizon Workrooms. So this is a VR space that allows you to get together with colleagues or clients, from across the globe, and have a real sense of presence, like we don't really have with our 2D experiences today, like we do on Zoom. So in that space, you can whiteboard, you can see people typing on their laptop, move their hands, look at each other. It's very impressive, and it really makes a difference, in my opinion.
Okay, cool. Well, look, that's brilliant. Thanks, guys. So look, I think we should stick with Adrian because, I like to, I say that Meta were the people who set the cat amongst the pigeons. I mean, everyone on this call had heard of the metaverse, but suddenly the metaverse became this mainstream thing, the thing that everyone was talking about. And that was when Mark Zuckerberg announced the rebrand. So we'd love to hear from you, Adrian, what the, you've just talked about a few things, but like what is the overall vision? I think you're now known as a MetaMate, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Cool. And so what is the plan from Meta for, I don't know, I guess like the next 5 years or the next 3 years?
Yeah, I think the important thing that like Mark Zuckerberg actually called out is that Meta's vision of the metaverse is really not about building the metaverse alone. So it's really building for it. So we will need businesses, entrepreneurs, creators to join us on that journey to build together social experiences. So I think your question also relates to what does it mean for business today. So at first, I think it will be more about like building bridges between the 2D experiences that we have now and the 3D space. So just to give you a couple of examples. So for example, AR ads, that's something that's available today to get people to test your products in real life. So for example, you can project, couch you're planning to consider, you're planning to buy, in your living room, or just to try an outfit that that you would like to, that you're interested in before buying it online. So you have a bunch of examples like this, for example, if you have an Instagram shop, you can have a live shopping experience directly in the metaverse. So yeah, lots of possibilities have been made available, in order to get started today. And our objective is really to make it easier for companies to bring their current app experience to the metaverse.
That's great. Okay, so I think it would be fun at this point to get the other guys on the panel to talk to you, because obviously, you are the biggest name in this space for obvious reasons. So I thought it would be nice if Pimsai and Mimra got a chance to ask you a question about it. So Pimsai, do you want to ask Adrian about Meta and their vision for the future?
Sure. Meta has been advocated on the open and interoperability. So I wonder, how we're going to create this Meta ecosystem together. What are the role for smaller partners like Hotplay? Like I mentioned, we are offering in-game advertising. So how can be integrated in Metaverse Meta ecosystem?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, I think the vision is really about building this together. So when it comes to advertising, particularly, I think we still have yet to figure this out, how it's going to really look like in the VR space, in the 3D environment. But I imagine in the same way you can integrate with current app stores today. So I imagine we'll have the possibilities for partners, to propose different types of solutions to monetize. But this is still like early stages.
So we get to know each other at the right time.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, definitely.
Serendipitous. Brilliant. All right. Okay. What about you, Mimra? Do you have a question for Adrian?
Yeah, I'm very curious whether is Metaverse a good avenue for marketeers and researchers to collect consumer opinions, public opinions? Because like yesterday, I saw an article on South China Morning Post where South China Morning Post has created a Metaverse experience of the Star Ferry Terminal in Kowloon. And when I first saw it, I always remember when I used to live in Hong Kong, there will be students coming and asking me like, do you have 5 minutes for a survey? So I'm curious, do you think we would have virtual characters asking people questions in the metaverse, kind of similar, replicating that experience? And also, do you think we will have the ability, if someone goes to a concert, to kind of listen into the conversations, what they are talking about, and the DJ itself can actually, himself or herself can actually see which music does the audience want to play? I'm curious of the possibilities.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. So yeah, I mean, once you start creating, I think the possibilities are endless, right? So I think we'll probably see some of that, happening in a way that's very respectful as well in terms of user privacy. So that's core to what we build as well. But yeah, I think that's something that's probably going to happen in different forms. What I like about your example actually is when you say about like the Star Ferry Pier, is that also it will probably allow people to learn more about that space and project themselves into the history of the place, and that gives also an idea of the potential that the metaverse has for education. So think about it, instead of learning in a book, just like being there, in the time of the pharaohs in Egypt. So I think this is a space that's really exciting as well.
Thank you.
So can I just ask, Mimra, so there's a ferry terminal in Hong Kong and they've got a virtual version of it. But
That's
surely
correct.
the essence of a ferry terminal is you're going to get a boat from one place to the other. So how does that part work?
I guess it's this is the thing with virtual worlds. There are so many virtual worlds that's being connected to each other. So I guess in this case, the ferry would actually take you to another virtual world from when you leave the Star Ferry. And I'm excited to know like how does one move from one virtual space to another virtual space? Because similar to the internet, the metaverse only works when there's an infinite number of metaverse virtual environments you can travel through, right? So very, very exciting concept, I have to say.
Okay, cool. Right. So look, I do have to say at this point that Adrian, I think Meta have created this document called Map to the Metaverse, and we will be sending it out after this webinar. So look out for the email and there'll be a link. And it's essentially, I think, Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a guide for businesses to Meta's vision for the metaverse. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So we'll be sending that out after this. It probably won't be until Monday. It'll come with an email with the recording of this webinar. And the other thing I'd like to remind you is I've got one question in the Q&A, but everyone can ask questions in the Q&A. We'll try and get any questions that you put in there put to our speakers. So please do start sending them in. Okay, we'll come to those in a minute. We've got two good ones already. In the meantime, let's have another quick poll. We'll slightly move on in terms of the topic. So here's a poll for you. Do you think the metaverse will present a good platform for polling, consumer research, and even voting in elections, which has been suggested, voting in elections? So here's a poll. Please do vote and let's see what you think. Okay, so lots of voting here. So the question was, do you think the metaverse will present a good platform for polling, consumer research, and even voting in elections? And the majority of you, 60%, have said yes, but strict verification measures need to be in place. I'm just sharing that on the screen with you there. So yeah, the possibilities are endless. And I think that brings us on to our next question, which is for Mimra. Of course, you run a platform that helps brands monitor their mentions and what their customers are talking about on social media. Can you give us some insight into what consumers are talking about now, especially that the metaverse is a household name?
Yeah, I think, of course, since Facebook or Meta announced the change, there is a whole excitement in the internet world to talk about what does this mean. And also, I think that was followed up by quite a lot of mainstream media coverage talking about all the tech giants jumping into the bandwagon. Everyone is trying to be the first mover or be the largest mover and so forth. And then we also have players like NVIDIA coming in and showcasing their technology. So I think what has driven most conversations in social media about metaverse is just the excitement of this becoming a mainstream topic. I think it's a bit similar to the Super Bowl recently when crypto became mainstream, right? So I think it was that kind of moment. One thing that I do think consumers do tend to kind of merge, I guess, is the topic of metaverse, crypto, NFT. These items kind of get talked mixed together. And I find it very fascinating because these are massive technologies on its own stance. And yes, to some extent, it does kind of work together. But what I find is that consumers are trying to connect these items as one, right? And I do think there is an interplay between each of these technologies. And I think it facilitates, one actually facilitates the other in making it more mainstream. So in social media, most of the conversations is still about the discovery stage of metaverse. What does this mean? But one thing I find that's very, very exciting is the idea of graphics. Graphics has taken mainstream, right? Like I remember my first experience with a computer was actually CorelDRAW. I'm not sure if anyone in the audience remembers CorelDRAW. And I kind of grew up, my interest in learning computing was vector art. So I think vector art 3D design, rendering, these things have become mainstream. It's almost like every person knows these things now, because that's such a essential part of the metaverse. So I did think for myself, like, wow, okay, like for all those students who was sitting in the class thinking of like drawing items and becoming an artist, where the teacher would have gone like, snap out of it, you need to study, you need to become a banker. I wonder those kids would now be thinking like, no, I should have gone and done art. I should have become vector graphic designers. That would have been the best universe to live in the meta world, right? So it's a fascinating thing. I think the social conversations about design has become many folds. And I think Jack Ma in an interview also talked about robotics taking over, and his answer was, every student should go into the field of arts. So I do think it is actually becoming a much major conversation compared to what it used to be in the past.
Wow, okay. Guys, do you have anything to comment to Mimra on that, Adrian or Pimsai?
Putting people on the spot, Mark.
I don't want to go
So
ahead.
you're saying if we all had talents, we could be designing NFTs and we'd all be millionaires by now.
Or we can be designing metaverses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the effect of that is like we can, adopt new career path at any time, right? You can inspire from your childhood excitement, and then jump into metaverse and create new things. And I think this is like not only how to say, just like in metaverse, we can have our own self in the physical world, and you can have multiple versions of us in a different metaverse as we like. I can be a fighter in one, I can be artist in another, right? So this is very exciting. And same as a career, as a profession, I can be ship commercial here during the daytime, and then at night I can do other things and more fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I relate to what you're saying about the design being more and more important. Like when I used to work at the gaming studio, I was watching just designers, do that on Illustrator, and I've always been very impressed with what they can achieve in such a small amount of time. So I think this has become more and more present, and people will be able to do that from anywhere in the world, in an easier way that is done at the moment. So yeah, it's super exciting.
Cool. So guys, we've got so many questions now. They're absolutely flying in. I have to say a lot of them are for Adrian. But so what I want to do is I want to go to the next question that I've got planned, and then we'll start on the audience questions. And some of them overlap with what I was planning to ask you guys. But let's just do one more question, and this one's really for Pimsai and Adrian, and it's more about your speciality, because I know you both work in gaming. So Pimsai, obviously you work for an in-game advertising platform, game studio, and Adrian, one of your focuses at Meta is the gaming site. Is Facebook? Sorry, is it Meta Gaming? Facebook Gaming?
It's still Facebook gaming, though. I think
Facebook gaming
will change
right.
at some point.
But so what I want to say is, in-game advertising, it to me is the gateway to the metaverse that's actually been around for 20 or possibly more 30 years. So in many ways, I think it's the easiest way for people to get into the metaverse because it's there and it's established, and it's growing incredibly quickly. But yeah, first for Pimsai, I guess, what's the most exciting technology you see emerging in the gaming space that can help companies connect with their customers or new customers in the metaverse?
Yeah, I have noticed many emerging technology, tech companies with a super innovative and creative idea, like from photogrammetry, mapping real world object into the games, and blend in their virtual environment within the game. Or the other way around, like projecting digital items and collectibles apparel in games into real life. So this is quite fascinating. And, it's related to what we do at Hotplay, in-game advertising, the IGA platform, which is simply the gateway. It could be an easiest way for brands to try to position themselves inside games without interrupting the fun and the artistic value of the game design. So we can imagine that, with the Metaverse, how these platform and technology going to help brand crafting, the experience and image within, the environment. And brand can engage their audience with campaigns that, meaningful and reward the audience for their valuable time and attention with coupons or, something that can be used in real life. And I think Metaverse will certainly become a significant component of brand strategy with this fast development of the ecosystem. So I think, that there are many ways for brand, to find a way to adopt and engage and augment the experience with the consumer.
Great. And so, Adrian, yeah, tell us what you see from Facebook gaming and how the brands can use that platform to get closer to their customers.
Yeah, I think in terms of new technologies in gaming, I think lately NFTs and the value proposition that they have is very promising. So just having like digital ownership, of a digital item, and then that you can bring over to all sorts of gaming experiences or even non-gaming experiences, I think sounds very exciting. So I think, also it will bring like more aligned incentives between developers, creators, and gamers, and all of them, would benefit financially from it more equally. Though I think in that space, we still have to see, if the business models will be sustainable in the long run, if the game designs, can be better than what they are today to just move beyond, that play to earn, feel to offer like a real value to gamers. So I think this will have definitely an important place in the metaverse, especially around gaming.
Cool. Okay. Right. So we've got a deluge of, I don't know if you panelists can actually see the questions. Can you see them?
Yeah, can see them.
Okay, cool. So I want to start with the first one. Look, just throw your hat into the ring if you're interested. I mean, Adrian, it's something you mentioned in the little interview we did with you, but here's one. And by the way, look, if you're not keen to speak about it, we can just move on. But so the first one is how could we embrace the metaverse it says for NGOs for fundraising, but let's just say for charitable causes. And I think there's a lot of examples of stuff that's been done recently. So yeah, who wants to have a go at that one? I mean, I don't know. So Adrian talked about, is it Mars Panda that does NFTs raising money for Afghan refugees, right? At the same time, I saw an NFT, I think it was yesterday, that you could buy a portion of the Ukrainian flag that went, again, raising money for displaced Ukrainian refugees. So yeah. I guess the point is, it's not always about just backing something that goes to the moon and you make a fortune. There are elements of good that we can do.
Yeah, I think that's true, that when you see what's available already on the Facebook platform, for NGOs, you can imagine those things will be ported in a more immersive environment, in the metaverse. And your example about NFTs, I think, is a good one. We're talking a lot about NFTs to make, quick money or just to bring different types of experiences, but also they can be used, for charity and as a force for good. So yeah, I hope we'll see more and more examples of that in the metaverse.
Okay, cool. All right. Let's have a look. What else have we got? If anyone's got a question in there that they like the look of, I mean, the one that Okay, here's quite a good one. Hyper personalization. Does anyone you know, this the question from Sagnik Powell is really interesting. It's, what is your view of the data generated in the metaverse for user hyper personalization? Since the behaviors in the real world versus the behaviors in the metaverse are very different. Algorithms generated for real world behavior may not be effective in the metaverse. I mean, this is a question that, you know, Stephen Hawking would be good to answer. What does anyone have a take on that? It's a pretty weighty question.
I think it's kind of similar to what I said with the concert item, right? Because if you think about the metaverse, the beauty is that you are able to collect that data live, and you collect that data without any noise. And that's the beauty. I feel like in today's real world, there is a lot of noise that we collect in the marketing analytics, and that kind of makes it difficult for hyperlocalization. Whereas I think in Metaverse, you have the ability to really collect all the information at one go and have predefined filters to help with the hyperlocalization. I think, for example, in Meltwater, we help a lot of customers in terms of doing consumer insights for their brand affinity criteria, and being able to collect that information without noise is the biggest challenge. But I do see there is a pitfall in the metaverse as well, which is what I think Pimsai just mentioned, which is you can be whoever you want to be, or you can be multiple people in the metaverse. So that also makes it difficult for hyperlocalization, because if you are in one universe, one character, and you go to another universe as a different character, the hyperlocalization might actually be something that the consumer doesn't like, right? Because you're hyperlocalizing on a different aspect. So I think there are challenges I see in the metaverse, especially with different people are moving within sub-worlds within the metaverse, and they have different avatars within each world. But I do think the greater good of being able to collect data without noise, I think, is the real advantage of the metaverse.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
there's a lot to unpack here. Sorry, Pimsai, go ahead.
I like to add to that a bit. I think, you know, with within the metaverse, we will have multiple data points, and then this can form some kind of like patterns, which kind of like lead to a deeper engagement, right? Not only, you know, the basic preference of what you like and what are the subject you're interested, but also, you know, the pattern of how you engage and interact with people in you know, in the environment, in the social, right? And this could lead to something that you know, you create a bond with your consumer, right? Not only kind of like awareness or interact, but something that in a deeper level. I don't know whether it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Look, so there's a question that's been put in, not in the quick Q&A, but just in the chat, that I really like, because, you know, we're talking about all these, you know, all these infinite possibilities, but Tiago, who is a guy who I believe is a guy I know who's based in the UAE, he wants to know, he says, the metaverse is a fantastic opportunity to multiple business segments with infinite possibilities. But as with all inventions and trends, there are always consequences, right? And he wants to know what might be the negative aspects that it would bring to real world businesses, such as travel, restaurants, hotels, sort of, you know, physical. And I think it ties in a bit to the ferry terminal, doesn't it? But so, yeah, has anyone got a perspective on how creating this infinite number of virtual worlds would have a negative effect on real world experiences for Tiago?
I mean, I have an opinion on it. I think with regard to the physical world being more elusive or people staying away due to like, oh, isolation, right? My view is that what will happen is the metaverse makes everything more accessible, and making everything accessible means that the barrier to having that experience is much lower, right? But because the population is growing and growing, I would imagine there's a percentage of the population who would want richer and richer experience, and the physical part of it would naturally be diverted there. So I think it will become not a world of isolation, it will become a world where you can really select the experiences you want to do physically, and the rest you can do it virtually, right? So it's actually empowering the consumer to, because there's so many things in the real world today that we do which we wish we don't need to do, right? But we have the pain, like it's like waiting for a bus, you know? Like I like to go to my destination, but I have to wait in the sun, get on the bus, and so forth, which if I can avoid that, I would. But there are experiences which you enjoy doing, which is if you're going for a run on East Coast Park, that's an experience I would love to enjoy in Singapore. So I think I'll be able to save time and put that time into much richer experiences. And I do think hospitality needs to change, because what they're competing with is a different tier of customers. And that's kind of like the view I have on that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think the opinion I have is that will not replace, you know, what we're doing today in real life, but what we do online, that will just make it better. So for example, I spend a lot of time, you know, playing mobile games on my phone, and I expect, or on console, I expect, you know, that time will be eventually done in VR, but that doesn't mean, you know, when I stop, you know, I'll keep on playing, you know, on other devices. So and yeah, I think those social interactions in real life won't disappear. As you said, they will probably be even more meaningful and selected.
Can I add one keyword to that? I think it's also deeper in terms of engagement, because I really believe that you know, it's kind of like a you know, with all the senses, not only just a 2D, right? Like when you get into the museum, you experience something in the metaverse, probably it will get richer. Your experience will get more into like a granular, and you get the sense of thing better than you know, what we experience today. But for sure, it will not replace, you know, the physical and real world traveling. I still, you know, go visit the museum. I want to get the atmosphere of it. But at the same time, I would do the same at home with, you know, VR, and jump into the virtual museum anytime.
Cool. Look, guys, so we're running out of time. We've got our next speaker on in a minute, but there's one question which someone raised in the Q&A, and rightly so. This event is called Monetizing the Metaverse. The principle is what can brands do to prepare themselves for it? And so quickly, again, I think if we just give you each 1 minute max to finish up and say what kind of brand or an e-commerce platform or even an agency who's watching now, what can they do to prepare for the metaverse? And obviously we could go on forever. The metaverse is infinite, but yeah, if you want to just give your ideas on that for 1 minute, that would be great. Starting with Adrian.
Yes. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, start thinking about what you're doing today, and between, you know, your current web experience or your current app experience, and how, you know, that could be ported in the metaverse. So how you can build, you know, those bridges between your current experience, marketing experience that you're offering to your clients, and how does that translate into something that follows the same objective, but that is more immersive, you know, in the metaverse.
Great. All right, Pimsai, what do you think?
Yeah, I think leading brand and business usually have a test and learn mindset anyway. So several tech player and entertainment player have already made their first move and start to shape their metaverse strategy. And not only that, traditional businesses like bank, you may have seen the news with JP Morgan have entered the metaverse, opening the lounge in Decentraland, right? So I think to start, brand should look into metaverse as a way to craft and personalize experience to your target audience, right? And then you could formulate your point of view, how your brand should show up in the metaverse, what tests you should put in place to enable your brand exposure, and how the metaverse could help to accelerate your brand purpose and long-term goals. I think, you can start by, testing a little bit here and there, but you need to step back and formulate, what is your real strategy, what you're looking at to benefit from the metaverse.
Brilliant, thank you. All right, Mimrat, you're up last. What's your take on this?
I think the first thing I would do if I was a business or an agency would be ask the question to all my customers, what is your first wish list item about the service you get from me? Because I do think Metaverse opens up, it's such a large leap in technology. It allows most businesses to address a dream scenario, because there will be some experience that is limiting in today's service offering that was limited by the fact that it's working in the physical world. And I do think Metaverse opens up an opportunity to make that barrier vanish, because it is purely digital. So if I was a restaurant, I will ask, right, what is your, like, the most imaginative wish list items, and try to see which of those wish list items can I transfer over in the meta world, because in the metaverse, it is possible. There's so many barriers that gets removed. And I do think it's like a dream scenario situation. So start asking your customers, what is your dream situation or dream scenario offering, and see which of those can be ported over, because the metaverse allows you to remove certain barriers in physical world.
Brilliant. All right, so you guys out there listening, you've got to work out what is your dream scenario, what is your dream scenario for your customers. Right, guys, well, as I said, we could talk forever on this. I really want to thank you all wholeheartedly for joining us. Thank you very much. I'm really sorry to everyone else that asked questions. We haven't got through all of them. If you want an introduction to any of these guys, you can email me. I'm on mark@bemorelean.co. I'll share that with you again. We're going to go into our next segment now. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for your participation today.
Thank you, Adrian and Pansai. Bye.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
So, guys, we're going to have a quick poll now. Another poll. So check your screens. And the poll is, how likely are you to buy a high-ticket product, such as a computer or car, without ever actually having seen the physical item? So here are your results, guys. And so it's, it's pretty categorical. Half of you, slightly more than half of you, want to play, see, touch an item before you actually buy it. But then, the other half, are undecided. But I think to talk us through how this could work, it is a man who's been there and done that. So John Biviano is dialing in from Australia. He works for Unity Technologies, and they've been operating effectively in the metaverse with their AR and VR since 2004. Their gaming platform is used to create VR experiences and games all over the world. They have a huge market share. So John is going to talk to us a little bit about real world case studies that 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 brands have used. So I'm going to pass over to you now. John, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm not sure how many of your audience are familiar with Unity, but Unity is the world's leading real-time 3D platform, powering just about any sort of physical or virtual object that can be imagined. So anything from immersive games and feature films through to 3D product configurators to full-scale digital twins of complex systems. You know, creators ranging from game developers to artists, architects, automotive designers, filmmakers, and others use our platform to make their imaginations come to life, and have been for a long time. Unity's platform provides a comprehensive set of software tools to help create, run, monetize interactive real-time 2D and 3D content from your mobile phones, from your tablets, from your PCs, consoles, and obviously augmented and virtual reality devices. Apps developed by our creators were downloaded more than 5 billion times per month in 2020. So I'm really pleased to be here on this session today, Mark, to talk about the next iteration of continuous digital transformation, real-time 3D, and the metaverse, and what it could really mean to the audience today. First, we've just heard from panelists. It's really important to get a sense of what is the metaverse. And a lot of people are using the term these days. There's a lot of different definitions, and we heard some of that earlier. You know, experts, opinions, thought leadership pieces are circulating on mainstream and social media, all with differing views on what the metaverse is. In my mind, no matter what term or definition you subscribe to, we are already in the metaverse. Quite simply, it's the next evolution of the internet. And like the internet, there's only one of them. Some well-established companies in the tech space, as well as more sort of traditional industries, are talking about creating a metaverse. In reality, they're talking about creating a world, a virtual world, a space, a zone, an environment, an experience, or a destination within the metaverse. Access to the metaverse can be experienced from all kinds of devices, from high fidelity experiences on gaming consoles to mobile AR. Unity runs on the largest number of devices to support an anytime, anywhere metaverse. With a real-time 3D first approach, any brand is empowered to drive its metaverse strategy rather than follow. In my mind, the transformation has already begun with the blending and blurring of lines between what's purely digital and what's physical. And this will continue to be more common, advanced, and intertwined. However, this blur and blend phenomenon isn't just happening in the advances in technology. It's happening with all of us. In the past, the roles of a creator, inventor, product designer, and the role of consumer, they were clearly defined. It was clear to me when I was a young person growing up that I was a consumer, and that creators, they were the more artistic sort of people out there. Technology today opens up possibilities for anyone to create. The metaverse is laying the foundation of the golden age for a creator economy, where the creator could be a company, it could be an individual seller, or a consumer designing and configuring their own purchase. The metaverse exists because at its core is a disruptive technology called real-time 3D. This provides the ability to create, build, influence, or manipulate something that can transfer between the physical and digital and back again. You may not realize it, but most likely all of you have interacted with a real-time 3D experience because you've all played mobile or video games in one form or another. Real-time 3D lets people explore and interact with an engaging, immersive digital reality. Gaming's where the real-time 3D revolution started, and we heard that earlier. and now it's impacting every aspect of our lives. Leaping forward in technologies such as computer power, platforms and devices, cloud distribution and connectivity are enabling an explosion in interactive real-time 3D content, spreading rapidly into many, many industries. These virtual universes are also known as digital twins, and they share many characteristics with games. Core aspects of games have become fundamental components of these new rich universes. As such, real-time digital twins have really emerged in the last few years. We've seen them change how we work, how we shop, how we interact, and positively impact our planet. Real-time 3D is a catalyst for live and remote collaboration. It allows teams of any size to bring their creations to life together. Designers, engineers, and builders are all collaborating in real time, designing and creating anything from a handheld device, consumer products, motor vehicles, to smart buildings and cities. More and more companies are also improving their sustainability, creating safer workspaces and planning new infrastructure with real-time 3D. And it's across every industry. It's not just big business that is capitalizing on the power of real-time 3D. It's all of us, maybe you. It's now so easy for bricks and mortar retailers or e-commerce to create memorable experiences, immersing customers and consumers in their brand. Brands have started putting the power of product configuration into the hands of their consumers. And this was mentioned earlier by the panel. It could be as simple as a style, a color, or skin selector, to something as complex as a full-featured customer build. Several automotive manufacturers are already implementing this option for their consumer experiences. In addition to providing brands a great avenue for upselling and additions, it also provides intelligence and data to decision makers, such as which part of our product is most selected for customization. Imagine a world where you can gain consumer insights and design preferences live. No need for the historical traditional processes such as focus groups. Another opportunity to enhance the consumer experience and to monetize an engagement is to immerse the consumer with the product in real life situations and environments using augmented or virtual reality. This allows customers to visualize, interact with a product in their home or their space of their choice, with their friends, and in the metaverse. Imagine adding simulation into the mix. For example, buying a particular model of bicycle, vehicle, or some other outdoor product. A consumer could experience how that particular selection interacts and performs with different variables such as weather and terrain, etc. Real-time 3D makes it easier for sellers to bring their products to life through these experiences, whilst gaining important insights into the buyer's behavior. As well as impacting how we work and shop, real-time 3D is also allowing us to simulate and visualize scenarios of whatever we dream of. Perhaps more importantly, real-time 3D is also helping us become better stewards of our planet, live more responsibly, and reduce our footprint. By enabling teams to create and market products and assets in more efficient ways and plan better for what's next, it's contributing to a better, more sustainable future. So it's clear, our behaviours are changing rapidly thanks to real-time 3D and digital twins. We see 4 key areas being transformed by this technology. Every product and asset across the life cycle is being transformed. And this is now powering immersive collaboration, interacting shopping experiences, the simulation of anything, the convergence of the real world with the digital world. But what does that really mean? Let's unpack that and showcase some familiar brands and businesses that are pioneering this future. So of course, the pandemic has forever changed how we work together. It's become more important than ever to empower teams to meet regardless of their location, whether that's from another office, city, or country. And there's no better way to understand each other's perspectives than in an immersive environment. US retailer Walgreens wanted to improve in-store planning coordination. So they used one of our products, Unity Reflect Review, to enable effortless collaboration across the business. Now their workers are able to walk through test spaces using personal mobile devices without any extra hardware and visualize real-time changes in AR. We know of a few new stadiums that have utilized real-time 3D in their planning and design. Mortison, a top 20 construction company, was tasked with an extensive $1 billion renovation project for the Climate Pledge Arena, home of NHL's new expansion team, the Seattle Kraken. Mortison were able to build an immersive and collaborative virtual environment to review their designs and give tours to executives, marketing and sales, and ownership teams before it was built. In fact, Mortison was able to give over 100 hours of virtual reality walkthroughs. Next example, technology firm Knox Innovation is making large-scale construction projects more efficient and more cost-effective. Recently, they used HoloLens and our product Visual Live to confirm that their plan, design, and model was 100% constructible, all in a virtual environment rather than being on site. This was particularly pertinent during the pandemic, as we all know, as job sites obviously were limited by how many people could be on site. They have reported a 21% increase in productivity, a 14% reduction in fabrication errors, and an 84% increase in change order approval. Pretty impressive. Businesses need to bring together multiple participants, whether they're working on their device of choice. And they need to support emerging technologies that open collaboration to a new dimension, making it easier for not just one employee, but the entire business. Now for the second transformation. I touched on the shopping experience earlier. Our belief is that every experience, whether in a store, a web browser, or an app, is about to change. And again, a number of progressive companies are proving this point. Homag, one of the world's top manufacturers of woodworking machinery, swiftly adopted its marketing tactics during this pandemic. With in-person events cancelled, they pivoted and they created an immersive virtual world showcasing their machines in every configuration to buyers anytime, anywhere. This was done for 80% less cost than traditional media and in a fraction of the time. Cutting-edge marketing experience are just not for industry leaders. Hong Kong startup On and Off is looking to get an edge in a competitive headphone market by creating interactive 3D configurators of its product. The company said a real-time 3D workflow let the company get to the market with marketing materials 2.5 months faster. From headphones to a whole city. Yep, seems like anything is possible. BNP Paribas amazed us when they said they were going to build a digital twin of the whole of Paris. The whole thing. Neighborhoods, roads, parks, 10 million buildings using close to 35 years worth of compiled data. Their real estate clients can even see what Paris will look like in the future in 2030. It's a brilliant way to allow their customers to become immersed in their next property without being constrained by location or time. These might look like complex projects, but with a few key components, we think the process has been simplified. To get to those flashy experiences, we need tools to easily create 3D models, optimize them for interactivity, and share them anywhere on any device. What we're truly seeing is the convergence of the real and virtual worlds. 5 years ago, it was unimaginable, but companies are realizing that they can take real-world data from multiple sources and integrate into real-time 3D to provide the ultimate data visualization experience. And of course, it's a lot of data, but it's now easily accessible and easy to understand. We see digital twins that bring in hundreds of different types of data sets, like the project from Enbridge, with over 25,000 miles of pipe that they need to inspect in a year. A digital twin helps them to accurately assess threats to pipeline integrity without the need to dig up the physical pipe or parse Excel files. Their digital twin, accessible on Microsoft HoloLens mixed reality devices and other platforms, merge 132 separate sets of pipeline data, including LiDAR terrain, satellite imagery, soil movement, to really help the engineers easily visualize what's going on operationally in the field and make data-driven decisions. Vancouver International Airport is also reimagining modern operations with a digital twin that takes huge amounts of data that are coming from all corners of the airport. Their focus is to ensure safety and security of travellers and their staff. Initially, the airport digital twin enabled staff and partners to proactively respond to operational issues, keep people, planes and baggage moving more efficiently, safely and security. Their next step is to extend this from an internal tool to an engagement tool for passengers and customers with a variety of offerings. So simply put, we can now visualize any data at any scale from any source to create almost any scenario in each unique digital twin. And we truly mean any scenario. Any what-if question that you have ever had can be answered using simulation and AI, so you can easily build smarter products and experiences just like BMW. The challenge for thousands of manufacturers like BMW is there isn't enough data from the real world to properly train machine learning models. BMW is making self-driving a reality by driving virtual vehicles in virtual worlds. 95% of the kilometers it drives for self-driving are done in Unity versus on real roads. With Unity, it can simulate any scenario and do more testing in less time, in more conditions, like any time of day, any type of weather, for less cost, and at zero risk of harming people. Training computer vision models with data the traditional way is an extensive process involving taking thousands of photos and manually labeling them. With synthetic data, AI startup Neural Pocket can bypass these time-consuming, expensive steps and generate a computer vision model in 1 week instead of 6 months, and for 95% cheaper cost. The company has been able to take on more business and increase revenue because of how much more quickly it can complete its AI projects. Recently at the Consumer Electronics Show in January, a partnership with Hyundai Motor Company was announced to jointly design and build a new Metaverse roadmap and platform for Metafactory. The partnership will realise Hyundai's vision of becoming the first mobility innovator to build a Metafactory, a digital twin of the company's physical plant supported by a Metaverse platform. The introduction of Metafactory will allow Hyundai to test numerous scenarios virtually in order to access, calculate, create optimal operation conditions without their employees needing to be on site. The collaboration culminates in a real-time 3D virtual platform, which will reach a broad group of Hyundai Motor Company customers, offering them a more comprehensive range of services across sales, marketing, and customer experience. Meaning consumers will now be able to trial, test, and engage various auto-related solutions digitally, long before choosing which to transfer to the physical vehicles. This collaboration with Hyundai is a great example of how the deployment of real-time 3D technologies across the entire product development process, from design to customer experience, delivers increased margins and opens up more possibilities for monetizing to the end customer. Every product is getting more intelligent. It's getting safer. It needs to understand the context with a great set of nuances. Our capabilities help teams to get there. So to recap, there are a few of the many ways the real-time revolution is changing the status quo. It's exciting to see so many companies across so many different industries usher in the new era. We're helping them get there, enabling forms of collaboration with which until recently were impossible. Creating unique, compelling consumer experience that turns shoppers into buyers. Simulating and accurately predicting the future. And breaking barriers between multiple realities. We live in a time where increasingly more physical products, equipment, factories, buildings, cities are not just things that exist in the real world, but have an entire living, breathing counterpart in the virtual world. This opens up a world of monetization opportunities for brands, many of which have not even been conceived as yet. We eventually see a world where everything, even people like all of us here, have a digital twin. And that will unlock a new economy with countless opportunities for all of us. At some point, we will see many industries converge to share, merge, and connect their digital twins with one another. These cross-digital and hybrid reality spaces will lead to the metaverse, where all things and people will be connected. This might sound futuristic, but we are seeing this happen now. The future is already here. The question is not if you need to act, but when are you going to act? The cost of not getting involved now is just going to go up as many companies are entering the space at the same time. The cost of catching up could be high for many companies, and some companies might find themselves not being able to catch up at all. Entering this space doesn't have to be a big all-at-once approach. Fortunately, with work we have already done in this space, we are able to provide on-ramps with smaller budgets to start. Additionally, massive in-house R&D is no longer required, as with technologies such as ours, we already have you halfway around the track. So let's be clear. The time to act is now. Don't be left behind. Thank you.
Wow, thanks a lot, John. That's brilliant. Brilliant. Look, we've really have just we've run out of time now. There are so many questions coming in, and we just don't have time, I'm afraid, to answer them all. What I would say is, if anybody wants to get in touch with John or any of our speakers, you can email me, or you obviously can find them on LinkedIn. But if you want to email me, I'll obviously hook you up. My email is mark@bemorelean.co. That's BEMORELEAN.co. It's been wonderful to have everyone here. Everyone's obviously very invested and excited about the metaverse. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. But do email me and look out for the email, which will come next week with the recording of this. And if you want to be introduced to any of our speakers, we'd be happy to do that. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, John. Thank you,
Thanks,
Andy,
Mark.
for helping out. And guys,
your time.
we'll be running another webinar in a couple of months' time. Look out for it. And thank you for joining us. And everybody take care.